Hello, this is Noga Hullman, creator of UpsideDown Parenting, where your parenting challenges meet personal transformation. And this is Monday Takeaway. Today we have a special interview. So my guest today is Rabbi Eliyahu Yaakov Deutsch, who is the author of this wonderful book, Parent by Choice, a Kabbalistic Plan for Raising Awesome and Amazing Kids. And we're going to talk about Kabbalah and parenting. Hi, Rabbi Eli.
Hi, how you doing?
It's good to have you here.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
I want to ask you the one question fit all that I ask all of my parenting experts.
Yeah.
And that is, in your opinion, what is the ultimate goal of parenting that I should wake up in the morning with?
I think that the ultimate goal of parenting is to raise a certain mentality, to put a certain mentality into the child in a way that they are inspired, passionate for good things. I think that overall, this is what the parent needs to imbue into the child, and what my book is all about really is how a lot of times people try to take a shortcut, or they try to get some kind of design or outline or a roadmap to doing this, and it's like an exercise about something you do instead of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'm into is that really we have to be the people that we want essentially our kids to be. And then of course, you have to rely on God a little bit, and there's praying and all that. But in the end of the day, in terms of what we can do, I think it's like 90% is who we are and what we become and what we strive for and what our values are and what we're into. That speaks volumes and much more than anything we're going to preach or teach. The real teaching is going to come from the modeling. Real teaching is going to come from what we actually are, as opposed to, do this or do that, or say this in this way, say that in that way. I think it's much more about like who we are that then gets given over as the child's first nature.
Mm-hmm. So you talk about inspired parenting in your book, and we'll go back to that in a moment. But before that, for whoever's watching us who doesn't know what Kabbalah is, and even for people who have heard of Kabbalah and have shown interest in Kabbalah before, what does Kabbalah have to say about parenting? Where does parenting come into Kabbalah? And what is Kabbalah?
Firstly, just in a nutshell, what we mean by Kabbalah, first and foremost, is the deeper teachings of Torah, deeper teachings of Judaism and the world. And also, the word Kabbalah itself is from the Hebrew word lekabel, which means to receive, because we're receiving these deeper teachings. They're being received by the student from the teacher. However, what people don't necessarily know is that the word Kabbalah is also related to another Hebrew word, makbil. Mm-hmm. Makbil means parallel, because one of the foundational principles of all Kabbalistic thought is that everything that's going on here in the physical world is really a parallel and projection of that which is much more real, that which is going on in the spiritual. And so therefore, if we understand principles in the spiritual, we should be able to understand a lot more how things work in the physical, because the way things work in the physical and emotional and psychological are really parallels and projection of where things are at spiritually. Mm-hmm. And of course the opposite is also true. If we can intuit and understand something with the proper wisdom here in our world, we should be able to perhaps, if we really understand it, angle back up and get a window into that which is going on spiritually. So in terms of parenting, I think just keeping it simple, one of the foundational points we have is that nothing can be given over to the fruit that was not already in the root. Okay, nothing can be given over to the fruit that's not already in the root.
So the root is the parent, the fruit is the child.
Exactly, you got it, right? And so that means to say that basically what we were just saying, that if we want to see some kind of result, we need to have it within us first. Now, are there other factors in the way our kids grow up? Of course. There's teachers, there's friends, there's outside influences, no doubt. But first and foremost, their inner first nature, I think, is given over by the home, or by the parents in particular. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, there's other factors. Of course, there's certain genetic predispositions. Of course, there's all this stuff. But in terms of parenting, what we can do, first and foremost, is be the people that essentially we want our kids to be, to have the values that we want our kids to have, right? Like there's that line, be the change you want to see in the world. Okay, so if you want to see something in your child, I wouldn't say the only thing we can do, but really the main thing we can do is to really make ourselves into that person.
Mm-hmm. You're talking in the book about this parallel thing going on, and you're saying that we have a choice as parents. we can look at our kids' bad deeds or even bad character traits, and we can say, how come this thing came out of me? Or we can ask the same exact question in a different way. We can say, how come this came out of me? What do I need to correct inside of me that my kid has shown me right now? So can you give me an example of how it works in your life as a father? What do you do?
Okay. So look, there's I want to I'll explain the principle that you're giving over, is that there is a principle from the Hasidic masters in Judaism that says that your kids essentially are an outer expression of what's in your heart, right? And so therefore there are going to be obviously even things that we're good at. So there could be something within us that's not complete with that thing, with that character trait, with that that element within ourselves. And so then that we can definitely find that come out in the child. And so therefore we can find certain things, whether it be let's just talk about, for example, what a person's cheering for, right? Which I think I mentioned in the book, right? You can have a person who, on the one hand, a lot of times, especially in America, they say, "Oh, what's really important is your grades," right? But then when that same kid doesn't do so well in school, but they're very successful on the field playing football or playing some kind of sport, so then parents going crazy, right? Which is good. Parents should cheer on the kid. Don't get me wrong. But
you meant to say that what's really important is not your grades, other things. You said that what's really important is your grades. And then the kid is on the soccer field. Is he successful there or not? Right.
So the kid has success in playing. The kid has success in. He's doing well in sports.
Yes.
Right. So then the parent shows much more. If a parent shows much more enthusiasm for the sports, it shows that and he's much more into and passionate about the sports, right? So that's saying that the parent is showing with his actions and showing with the expression of his heart, is showing what he really is putting importance on, right? And by the way, it doesn't have to mean a kid who does poorly in school. Let's say a kid does well in school, and he also does well in sports. If the positive reinforcement, if it's not just positive reinforcement, because positive reinforcement implies that you calculated it and then you went ahead and did it. No, what I want to say here is that what it has to do is what's really going on in the parent's heart, right? It's not so if the parent's showing and giving over that in his heart there's a much grander passion about sports success than there is about the academic success. So then you just made that statement to your kid, and not just a statement, that went into their heart, that went into their first nature about what's really important, what's really life all about, what's really valuable, what's the number one priority. You just put that into your kids. So
the kids really do know what's in our heart.
Right, exactly. So
we can talk all day long.
Right, exactly. So that's the thing, right? Other than that, you could preach one thing, you could talk about another thing. You could talk about, for example, another good example is I like to always bring up is let's say you listen to some, at least when I was growing up, they had, and I grew up with a family which had some Jewish background, so we had like these Jewish tapes which like talked about being a good person and not talking bad about other people and whatever. So that's a very nice idea. But if then the parent plays that tape or plays that disc in the car, and then goes back home and starts yapping every night for an hour and a half to a friend about everybody and talking about trash about behind people's backs about everybody in the neighborhood, so then you just gave over the message that this is what we say we do and this is what we actually do, right? So really it starts first and foremost with the parent. What's going on with the parent? What are their character traits at right now, and what are their aspirations, goals, values, and vision, and what's important to them? That's what's going to go into the child as their first nature.
So for parenting better, I would have to map myself out first to see what I really stand for.
I think so.
Before I start.
For sure. For sure. And then if we recognize this stuff within us and we aren't so happy with it and we want to change, so then that takes inner work. That takes learning about what we really do want, and internalizing that. That's the bigger step, right? Internalizing that into our heart to a point where those other things that we previously valued and put on a pedestal, we realize they're not that important and we don't really value them all that much. And the other things which we said we valued become something that we really internalize, the fact that yes, this is very important and this is what life's all about, and this is priority number one.
So these are some principles of inspired parenting.
Right.
What else do you include in inspired parenting?
Look, I think this is the the main goal. The other, I think, also another idea also is in terms of the child, right? If we focus in on the child, a lot of times we can get caught up in the things that we don't like. We can get caught up in the negative things and in trying to change the negative things, right? But I think one important trait to develop within oneself in terms of parenting or really dealing with people altogether, and certainly if a person's also a teacher, this definitely applies to teaching as well, is to develop what we can call a good eye. A good eye. A good eye means seeing seeing really the soul in the person, seeing that the person is really all good, seeing the God in the person, if you will, the spark of God in the person, the soul of the person. To the extent we go ahead and are able to do that and identify the person or the child as all good, right? So then we come to see the other things as not the child, but the child's actions, right? And so that's a big separation, to be able to put a distance and a separation between the child and the actions, and say, okay, we don't have to say that these are good actions that the child's doing, right? That wouldn't be accurate or true, perhaps, if the child's doing something negative. But we could understand this thing to be that something that the child's doing, not what the child is. But building a good eye means that when you look at another person, and particularly, especially if you're looking at a student or especially a child, right, to be able to identify that person or identify that child as the good things that you see. To understand that is the reflection of who and what they are, because what they really are is a soul. What they really are is a holy, godly soul, which means that they're all good. Not they're half good and half bad. No, they're really all good at their essence. And so they might do things that are negative. Well, that's a result of other things. That's a result of a bunch of garbage that's been piled up on top of them, or who knows, maybe even their genetic makeup or genetic predispositions, their nature, their nurture, fine. And it doesn't mean I'm absolving them responsibility. Certainly as they get older, they become more and more responsible for their actions. However, it's not a true reflection of who and what they are at the core. Right? Who and what they are at their core is all good. So when we start to see them, when we see them do good things, so to identify them by those things and to look at them in a way that we're seeing, we are aligning their identity with the good things, and understanding when we see them doing the things that are maybe not so what we desire, not so great, right? To be able to understand those things as, yes, they're the actions that they did, but it's not them. To be able to put a distance between them, their essence on the one hand, and their actions and what they do on the other hand, right? So
that's very difficult for a parent, because the real them is what we don't see, and the not real them is what we see all the time, their deeds, the mess that they make.
Right.
It's so hard to remember that when you don't see it.
So this is what we need. I mean, the truth is, we really, within ourselves, need to be working on this in terms of how we deal with everyone. And the truth is even more so, or in additionally, really how we deal with ourselves. That to be able to look at ourselves in this way also, right? This is an idea that's in the Jewish sources called judging, to judge yourself, to judge others favorably, right? Dan lekaf zchut. But if you look at that, most people think that means that you see someone do something and you don't know the circumstances, so you assume that really whatever the negative thing they're doing isn't that as negative as we thought. We judge them the benefit of the doubt. Right? And okay, that's one interpretation of judging another favorably. However, if you look at the Hebrew, Dan lekaf zchut means judge in accordance with meritoriousness. Judge the person in accordance with the positive meritorious things they do, because that is a true reflection of who and what they are. Right?
That's a great point.
Yeah, and so in addition to this, just like we're judging others favorably, the truth is what we really need to do also is judge ourselves favorably, right? To be able to understand, when we see those things within ourselves, when we see ourselves do positive things, take note of that and say, oh, that's a real reflection of who and what I am. That's a real reflection, perhaps, hopefully, of my soul, of my inner spark, and so I am really good, I am really valuable. Right?
Yeah, say and that to others. We walk around with guilt all day long. We just see the things we do wrong. We forget to look at what we did right.
Right. So we should, and not only do we have to look at the things we do right, but we have to look at the things we do right and understand that that's a reflection of our identity, right? As opposed to the negative things. The truth is that could also be something that's piled up on top. We could also be conditioned for good things. But okay, let's judge ourselves favorably, okay? And we can look at those things as a true sign of our identity, a true reflection of our identity. And the negative things or mistakes that we do and the mess ups that we do, like, okay, this is a mess up. Hopefully I tried to do well, and even if I didn't try to do well, it's not a true reflection of who and what I am, because the essence of me is really all good. To the extent I start to look at myself in that way, to the extent I start to identify with those positive things, and then more and more I move away, hopefully, from the negative things, because I start to see those things as beneath me. Right? Because I start to identify with the higher, truer side of myself, which is soul.
Yeah.
So the same thing in our dealings with others, and especially with our kids, who their whole first self-perception comes from us. Right? I once heard a line that, be careful how you talk to your kids, because the way you talk to your kids will become their inner voice. Right? That's essentially what we're talking about here. Right? So to the extent we deal with others, and to the extent that we deal with our kids in this way of identifying them by the good things, right? So they start to feel that identification within themselves, raise themselves up, and then hopefully those other things they look at kind of beneath themselves. Right?
I like that so much. I can also see how I can already use it today with my kids. So I already know that when they do something bad, I'm not supposed to say, you did this awful thing. I'm supposed to say, the thing you did is awful.
Okay.
So now you're telling me that when they do something wonderful, what I can say is, you did this wonderful thing, and the reason you did it is because you are wonderful.
Nice.
So I can add that dimension to their experience with what they did. Also, I wrote down for myself, when I read in your book the importance of this separation and distinguishing between the inner core of the child and their deeds and all of the external stuff about them, it reminded me of a beautiful thing I read also from a Hasidic master, and for me it's a great visual aid to remember how to treat my kids. He took the word Adam, which we all know this word. Some people name their kids Adam, and Adam, as we all know, is the first human being. But Adam is also a Hebrew word, and Hebrew words have many layers of meanings. So the word Adam is A plus D-A-M, which is, the A is stands for God, God's name,
right.
And the D-A-M in Hebrew is blood.
Right.
And this Hasidic master said, look, if you look at people from your A, from your divine core, that's what you'll see in them. And if you look at people from your externals, from your ego, comparing yourselves to them, who's taller, who's shorter, who's fatter, then this is also what you see in them. And this will be the level of your relationship.
Nice.
Pretty shallow.
Nice.
So start looking from your A, from your Aleph. And also, if you notice the order in the word Adam, the A comes first. We don't see it, but it comes first.
Right. Very nice.
So for me, it's a great reminder.
Beautiful.
Okay, so I wanted to ask, I'm really curious about this. I've been curious about it for years. I've tried to ask around. Maybe you'll solve the mystery.
Okay.
Does Kabbalah say anything about children choosing their parents before their birth, souls choosing the parents who are already existent here on earth?
Right. There is such an idea. There's such an idea that the child essentially chooses the parents based on the unique purpose that this child's coming into this world, which every soul has a unique purpose for coming into this world, what it needs to perfect and fix here in this world. So based on that, it chooses its parents as to be the background by which it grows up. And so sometimes, obviously, that could be more easy than others, but it sets the backdrop, again, it sets the first nature for the child. So there is such an idea like that, yeah.
In your book, I think it was already right at the beginning, actually, when you spoke about the purpose of parenting, you talked about how there needs to be a shift of attention from the child's eyes, or what we need to fix in the child, and instead we should shift it to the parent persona.
Right.
And this is how parenting should be done, from the parent's persona, not from what we need to fix in the child. Do I understand it correctly?
Yeah, I think so.
My question is it based on Kabbalah? Where do you find it in Kabbalah?
So I think the truth is, I think you could find it in the Torah itself, straight out. It says, be fruitful and multiply. Right? Be fruitful and multiply. So be fruitful and multiply. One of the rabbis explained that be fruitful means to have kids, right? Multiply means that when you're having these kids, you should understand that you yourself are multiplying. You're making copies of yourself, right? You're making copies, not of what you're preaching. You're making copies of where you're at. So I think that this is one of the foundational places, right, where the Torah at the beginning talks about having kids. It's saying, be fruitful and multiply. You're making multiplications of yourself, and so therefore, and that's one of the ideas of having kids, is for the purpose of, hopefully you're a positive person in the world. The whole idea is of having kids. One of the ideas of having kids, certainly in Judaism, is to bring about more more of what the Jewish mission is here in this world, which is to bring about God awareness, right? To be a light into the nations, to bring about God awareness in this world. So as you go ahead and do that, as you have more and more kids, the idea is that hopefully you're bringing out more and more light, more and more clarity by what these positive things that these kids are going to do. And so this is all rooted, I think, in this verse, be fruitful and multiply, which is you're having more of yourself, which again, ideally is going to be a good thing for the world. And so therefore a person needs to be in a place of place of goodness and striving, and again valuing proper high things, and then hopefully that will become their child's first nature, and we'll all move forward from there.
I also understand from that when we give birth to our kids, it's not that we're perfect at that point, or that we have to wait until we're perfect in order to have kids. I know a lot of people who say, I'm going to have my first child only when I've made a lot of money. So in this case, we can have the children when we're on our journey. We're not perfected yet. We're not perfect human beings. And because the children see our striving, that's also what they need to get, that a human being is here to strive to be better.
Certainly.
We're not necessarily going to end our lives being amazing human beings. But the fact that we are striving is a great example for the child.
Yeah, no doubt, certainly. I mean, that's, again, what you're putting into the child, of course, is certain practices that you yourself have, but also certain midot. Midot, meaning, so translate that, sorry, means not just character traits, but also like your emotional state, So, because midah usually translated as character traits, but so in Hebrew, the same word for character trait is also measurements. Measurements means how much am I balanced? Like there are a lot of traits that could be good or could be bad. It depends when you use them and how you use them, right? Also within oneself, a person's emotions. When is it good to use this emotion? When is it good to use that emotion? So to the extent a person is striving, that's a trait, right? That's a trait. Enthusiasm, passion for the right things is good. Of course, the opposite is not so good, right? But that means to say that where we're putting those traits into our child also, so that's also something that's necessary and good, for sure.
That should be a banner. Striving is a trait.
Yeah.
Striving in itself is a wonderful thing. So we shifted the center of attention from the child to the parent. Does that have any implications to the child's obligation to honor their parents?
So the child's obligation to honor the parents, we find. I talk about this. There's a section in the book that deals with this, with honoring the parents, because also one of the reasons why I bring this is because it seems that there's like a total misunderstanding of this concept. That people think that the definition, what does it mean to honor the parents? People think it means do what the parents say, right? It seems according to Jewish law, bottom line Jewish law, that the definition is not really do what your parents say. It seems like the definition is really to essentially service the parents, right? It says specifically, bring them to eat, bring them to drink, launder, do the laundry, chauffeur them around, take them to where they need to go, take them back from where they needed to go.
How old do the parents need to be for that?
Right, you're ready. I think this is something that applies to any child. So at least when the child gets to an age of responsibility, they should understand that this is what they're supposed to do. Age of responsibility, according to Judaism, bottom line is age 12 for a girl, age 13 for a boy.
So if her mother is, let's say, 45, she can come and say, "Mommy, do you want a cup of tea?" Right? Her mother doesn't really need the service, but this is
exactly. So this is what we mean. This is really what it's supposed to be. So it's funny because now the way we're running in society today, and probably there's probably been a struggle for more than just nowadays, right, is that all the things that Judaism says the child is supposed to do for the parent, you find that the parent is doing for the child, and the child expecting the parent to do this for them. Right? They walk in the door, and they're expecting that dinner is going to be on the table, and they're expecting that the parents are going to do their laundry. It's like literally all the things that the child is supposed to be doing for the parent, you find that the parent is doing for the child. So something's upside down here. And so for that reason, I wanted to include that in here. But of course, what it has to do with is recognizing your root, recognizing where you're coming from, and showing, obviously, more than showing appreciation. There's more to it than this, but this is obviously a very simple but true way of looking at it. Additionally, also, the interesting thing is that in Judaism you find that it says, well, what about a parent who you feel they don't deserve my honor? They don't deserve my service. These guys were such whatever.
Or the parent
jerks.
who went to jail.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's even different. At least, and what about a parent that was difficult? So certainly, if it's an abusive situation, and by abusive I mean physically abusive, so then, God forbid, so then certainly a person doesn't have to endanger themselves in order to fulfill this. I've asked this specifically. A person doesn't need to endanger themselves in order to fulfill this. That's for sure. There's a general principle in Jewish law that any positive commandment that a person, in order to fulfill, will have to endanger themselves. They don't have to do. However, what about the guy who was just, you viewed him as a jerk, which of course is quite, happens a lot of the time. So, the Jewish law actually teaches that a person should take on kind of like a God view on the whole thing, which is that, okay, as Judaism explains, there's a God who runs the show, and everything that happens is from God and for the best, and so therefore to not do it because the parents, not do these positive things for the parents because the parents deserve it. No, forget about the parent deserving it or not deserving it. Do it because this is, according to Judaism, this is upon the child to do. For whatever reason, the person needs to go ahead and be involved in doing these services for the parent. And so, if a person thinks that their parents aren't deserving, not relevant, and take on a God view. I'm not doing this because the parents are so deserving. I'm doing it because this is what is upon me to do according to Judaism, and therefore it will be good for my Jewish soul, and it will bring godliness into this world. Period. Irrelevant of whether or not the parent is worthy of it in the child's eyes.
Also, the child is building their own character traits.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. Right, no doubt about it. And so, in Judaism, in the sources, there's some extreme examples of this. We won't go into the details here, but the idea is to go ahead and to take on this kind of philosophical approach to honoring the parents in that situation.
Yeah, good training.
Right, good training
for oneself.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to conclude with a question about God, since we brought him now to the center of the picture.
Okay.
My question is this. So there's a very vivid picture that Kabbalah paints of how God created the world. And if you can talk about that a little bit, and then maybe if you can talk about what a parent can learn from God's relationship with creation, about the parent's relationship with our own creation, which is our kids.
The classic idea in Kabbalistic thought that in order to create the world, God, so to speak, constricted of the clarity of himself in order to allow for a certain non-clarity within which there could be something that we can perceive as a world, as something almost as an independent other of God, which of course can't be, because if we understand God as an infinite being, there can't be anything other than God, right? But here we are, and I'm talking to you, and there's some space in between us, and there's a microphone here, and there's a couch over here, and books. So clearly, where there's a certain lack of clarity on the fact that it's all the infinite, right? And so there's holding back in order that there should be an appearance of an other.
Yes, is this clarity the equivalent of presence? Is it presence and non-presence?
It's, I wouldn't call that God's, there's no lack of God's presence, it's just a lack of the clarity of God's presence, I would say it like that. So the same thing, I think, is the way we have to deal with the child. In other words, that in order to, that we want to go ahead and take, in a certain respect, take a step back, right, in order to allow for that child to be who that child is. Obviously, if you're too much and too on top of the child, and either in a demanding way or the opposite, or in a giving way, and you do everything for the child, and the child always has a maid or a nanny running around behind and picking up after it, so then the child's not going to be able to develop as independent, right? So what needs to be done is, on the one hand, take a step back in order to allow the child to be the child, but also be there in order to be like a security blanket, right? So then so you put into the child what they need little by little, right? Because if I try, let's say I want to give everything to my child, right? So I want to teach my child to read. So then I go ahead and I just break out Shakespeare to my child. It's not going to work out so well. It's going to destroy the child. It's too much for what they can bear. So you take a step back and recognize where this child is truly at, and then give them a little bit of what they can
Mother
handle.
Goose might be enough.
Right, perhaps, or start with some ABCs or alphabets or whatever it might be, and then move on from there. So this is actually, there's a Kabbalistic concept related to this, that there's something called surrounding light and inner light within Kabbalah. Surrounding light means that which is beyond what can be handled. So it could be there as it's beyond what could be handled. So it would, if it would be exposed to whatever what you want to call in this particular case the child, right? It would basically make the child, the child would basically essentially disappear, right? But so what instead to go ahead and take a step back, make room for that child, and then put in some what you might call inner light, meaning give it the life to that child to the extent that this being, this child, can go ahead and contain at that particular time. Because if you give too much, it's going to totally destroy it. So on the one hand, to be on the outside, being a comfortable security context for the child. On the other hand, but not too much, right? And then on the other hand, in order to just give that child the independence that is appropriate for it at that particular time, and then to also go ahead and give it the life that it needs.
Mm-hmm. That's probably a balancing act that takes us our whole child's life in order to understand how much for each child.
Right. Absolutely.
That's our job, really.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Rabbi Eli. If you want to dig deep into these ideas, then get a copy of Rabbi Eli's book, Parent by Choice, A Kabbalistic Plan for Raising Awesome and Amazing Kids. Thank you.
Thank you very much.